Okay guys, so I want to bring you guys along. I'll get you caught up, but I just want to show you because it's sort of acting up right now. See, this rear wheel spins. It's in park, engine's running. I just tried to put it in drive with traction control off and try to give it a little bit of gas, see if the wheels move. This is here for a complaint and I'll explain, but rear wheel spins both sides, and I got the camera out too late, but we can start here. So look, a little bit of a drag. All right, so let's call that our starting point. So I'll do it again. Customer's complaint really is that it's hard to get the vehicle moving, basically. He thinks its transmission is slipping, and I'll get you a shot of all of those here in a minute. So he thinks maybe transmission is slipping. It's been to the dealer for a couple of things. I'll have to find out what they did. Got a little bit better, but sort of still having an issue. So what I experienced is, and I've not experienced this before, so pretty interesting. It's why I'm filming this. I went out to the vehicle after he dropped it off. It's in the front of the building. Got in it, put it in reverse to back out of the parking spot, and the vehicle did not go anywhere. I gave it a little bit of gas, and you know when you hold the caliper, the vehicle kind of flexes, sort of lunge. I thought that the parking brake was on, which is not abnormal, but there was no parking brake sign, and sometimes cars will beep, but I just naturally just hit the button, nothing. Then I pulled the button, and I can feel on my foot the brake pedal be adjusted with pressure, so that meant that the calipers were not, or parking brake was not engaged. So then I disengaged it, got the light to turn off. So as far as that working properly, letting you know that the rear parking brake is engaged, that is correct. So I got the lights to turn off because I disengaged, and they have not ever been manually engaged, and the vehicle still would not back up. I just went off of the customer's basically description of what he does. He has to give a lot of gas, and then it slowly started to back out with a drag, and then I put it in drive again, would not roll until I gave it a lot of gas. So let's I'm gonna put it in drive, and let me see if I can make this happen because I'm here a little bit by myself, and I was trying to see if the wheels were spinning. So it's gonna be difficult, but let's see if I can maintain this there. Okay, so that's the front wheel. Let's go to, okay, I'm in drive already. Foot is on brake. I'll let off, and it's not spinning. I'll rev it up if you want to watch the RPMs. And now we're spinning. And I hit the brakes. Okay, and so I'm getting out of the vehicle after turning it off and showing that the wheels were finally spinning, but I stepped on the brake to go through the turn off procedure, put it in park, turn the vehicle off, and quickly got out and started checking the wheels. You can clearly see that the front was not free and the rears were, and this is kind of what is the problem that the customer is complaining about. And after a set amount of time, they actually end up getting freed up and unlocked, and they'll spin. All right, guys. So hopefully you could tell. I think the audio is not great or something happened, but basically front wheels were locked up after starting, put in drive, and accelerate or attempt to accelerate and then get out and check all four wheels, the two fronts stay locked up. That basically confirms what the vehicle did to me and what the customer's having issues with and complaining about. Now, the one thing I want to do is I want to check the brake pressures in the scan tool, but I want to recreate it. So I've cycled the key. So I need to get the traction control off in order to attempt to be able to spin it. If not, and this goes for normal testing, on the lift, the vehicle will act all wonky trying to accelerate. And so there we go. We've got traction off, drive. I'll try to accelerate. And it just sounds like it's dragging. Maybe you guys can see here. Okay, so that time, watch. If that moves, then the wheels are moving. If not, like before, you'll only get a rev up, but none of that, and it's a different tone. So now that I've stepped on the brakes, let's see what we can do or see. Let off. You hear the tone? There we go, see? We've got RPM and it's holding the wheels. We're not accelerating. So, foot on the brake again. At this point, let's look at brake pressure. That's with me on the brake pedal. I'm gonna let off. So it drops. Now, so no brake pressure, and it just released. You see the RPM, the speed. So during the holdup of the wheels not spinning, brake pressure stayed down low at the rest state. And then even at the point of when looks like the front wheels finally released and we got the speedometer to come up, there was no change in the brake pressure reading here. So I'm trying to build an idea of what's going on. Alright guys, so if you can tell, I've unplugged the DSC control module. Now that is what electrically will control and apply the brakes on all four corners. And so what I want to do is try to split the system between electrical and hydraulic issue. So we're gonna have a bunch of lights come on because we've got the traction unplugged, and I want to do the same thing. So foot on the brake, we'll go to drive. I want to see how it acts up. RPM rising, wheels not spinning. There we go. And more gas. It finally spins. We have no speedometer, but that's because our ABS is unplugged. ABS sees the wheel speed sensor, sends a bus signal to the cluster, tells it what to display as far as vehicle speed. That's why we don't have that, but we know we are getting RPM and we know we get wheel released because we physically see it, but that is all without no traction control. And as you can see, we're not getting a data pin once this focuses because we've got no communication. So electrically, the system is out of play. Hydraulically, foot on brake, it is still doing the same thing. So after this initial visit that you guys just saw me experiencing, the customer picked up, left, and I told him I was going to do some research and see what I could come up with. And so basically where my mind was going is that I was wanting to investigate the traction control system. Being that the way that I experienced it, that it's a hydraulic system issue, I started to do some research. So here I pulled up factory information related to the traction control system. And so I was basically just looking it over and trying to figure out, see if I could come up with something that would lead me to a decision. I did not want to throw parts at it or just guess at what possibly could be causing it, especially because I have not experienced something like this yet to my knowledge. So I sat down, went through this, and I will show you what I decided to do. Now, if we take a look at this piece of literature or description that I had found during the research, you can clearly see that it has some important information. Obviously, you're more than welcome to pause it if you'd like to read it more in detail, but basically it's telling us that after the master cylinder gets applied, it takes on hydraulic fluid and it creates pressure with the pump, and then there's check valves or valves within that valve block, and there's intake valves and output valves, so on and so forth. The other piece of important information that it tells us is the whole brake pressure sensor and where it seems to get its signal from, which it is telling us it looks like it's just from the brake pedal. Now, if we take a look here at this basically hydraulic system diagram of the ABS valve block, we'll call it, where the pump is attached and all the control valves that we read about in the previous description, this is the makeup of almost like a hydraulic flow chart. And these are the two outputs of the master cylinder. This will lead to the front here on the left, and this further one out line is for the rears, which will go over here to this section of the valve block. Now, after reading the description and now looking through this hydraulic diagram where the front splits off and the rear splits off, and then there's a, let's call it a dividing section, and the final output are also isolated from each other, meaning this whole section in the valve block is just for the front. This is the front left and right, or vice versa. And then this is the output for the rears, left and right, but totally independent from each other. And if you look here, here's our primary output from the master, comes down, and as it goes in here, it also finishes right there, and that is our pressure sensor where we were getting our reading. And so if you remember in the scan tool, when I pressed the brake pedal, we clearly saw the pressure rise, and when I let off, the pressure dropped off. So that is this hydraulic circuit right here being created by my foot right there, increasing the pressure, and it's actually only reading the front circuit, but I guess it's assuming that it's building pressure in both sections at that point, but its reading is only increased by the brake pedal. When I let off and checked that the wheels were locked by trying to accelerate, the pressure was off. That means built up hydraulic pressure was past this point, past the pressure sensor, because behind this area, the pressure got relieved. It went down to zero. But there was still physical pressure applied at the wheels here. And so that means pressure is built up high in this whole internal section of the valve block. So between this diagram, looking at the pressure sensor circuit here, looking at the data, checking it physically, and that description of the system that we just went over, all of those were a culminative items that made me decide into making the call of this hydraulic system. Okay guys, so I'm continuing along on this BMW X4. It's been about a week or so. I decided to go ahead and make a change with the DSC valve block. That's the hydraulic assembly there with the pump unit. And so that's the one I've just finished installing. I did do a pressure brake bleed. There's the original one, and then there's the module. So I'm leaving the module off right now because, again, electrically it did not make any difference. And so it's just more of a trying to prove out what it's going to do. So we'll go ahead, get this cranked up. And we'll do the same thing where I'll start it up. Actually, I don't even need to take the traction off because we have no DSC control unit. So we'll go ahead, go to drive, and then remember, we're not going to get a speed reading because the DSC is off. So let's go ahead and let off the brake. So we're going to spin because I haven't I tried to accelerate and hit the brakes and then key off and checking it. So I'm just going to do a couple accelerate and braking events. You can tell it starts rolling right away as soon as I let off the brake. So I'm going to let off now. So right now it's releasing. It's not doing what it was doing. So we'll do a stop. We'll give it some good brake pedal. We'll put it in park. And then we'll turn it off, let off the brake. Let's go check the front wheels. And all right, so first one is free. Second one is free. Let's check the rear. Okay. And then the other one. So right now, all the wheels free spin after replacing the hydraulic portion of the DSC control unit and after bleeding the brakes. So I'm gonna continue now. I am going to install the original control unit and go through the bleed procedure with the scan tool where it'll activate the check valves and so on and so forth. And then I'll bring you guys back along and we'll double check it. So far right now, it seems to be working. Alright guys, so I've got the module installed. I already went through the bleed procedure with the scan tool. Just a little tip, it's a little bit of a pain. It kind of times out if you don't do everything within a certain period of time. So I've already started the vehicle, turned the traction off. Let's go ahead and put in drive, and then let's watch that wheel off the brake. There we go. A little bit of gas, brake, I'll let off, and then we can tell here right away. If we watch that, I'm on the brake now, I'll let off, and it's right away we do get acceleration. Now we'll do the test where hard on the brake, put in park, we'll shut it off. Let's go check the wheels again. Front, all right, free spinning Again, now this is with DSC interaction and after electronically being controlled and activated. So now the hydraulics have been replaced, bled, and then the same DSC control unit, and the issue is gone. Alright guys, so I just finished test driving it and everything seems to be acting fine. So here we are, hard stop, still in drive. The auto start has activated, so it shut off the engine. I'm gonna let off the brake and see if we can roll easily. And right away we start rolling. So for now, so it looks like that is all that was basically locking up the front wheels. Now I was able to confirm after everything got done and was working properly with the customer what the dealer had actually done. And he sent me a copy of the invoice, and they basically ended up replacing the brake master cylinder and also added, I guess, the whole front brakes just for good measure, I would say. But clearly, it did not ultimately end up fixing the problem. As you can tell, the complaint was still the same about the front wheels locking up. Now, being respectful with the customer, I'm not showing the prices and so on and so forth, but I can say that it was not cheap, especially to still have the same issue reoccur or happen the same way. Now, I'm not knocking the dealer or talking any kind of trash. The only thing that I am basically trying to explain is if they would have taken the time to break down the system, analyze it, read the description, understand how it works, and look at the data, make a logical approach and path to try to accurately make the right call the first time instead of just winging parts at it. This is not just the dealer, but many other shops. It is very important to take your time, diagnose it properly. That way you stay out of trouble and don't upset the customer. That's basically all I did was sit back, research, learn the system, and was able to make the right call.